Kumbha continued, "You have attained to the state of Satva, the unconditioned mind, on account of your supreme renunciation. The conditioned mind has been totally renounced. Of this I am convinced. Your mind has become like pure infinite space. You have reached the state of complete equilibrium, which is the state of perfection. This is a total renunciation in which everything is abandoned without residue." Sikhidhvaja was a renunciate, but he was heavily attached to the whole idea of renunciation, and so he hadn't really given everything up. In fact, he'd been very greatly attached through his renunciation. What sort of happiness, destruction of sorrow, does one gain through austerities? Supreme and unending happiness is attained only through utter equanimity. What sort of happiness is that which is gained in heaven? He who has not attained self-knowledge tries to snatch a little pleasure through the performance of some rituals. One who does not have gold clings to copper. Most spiritual practices, spiritual beliefs, are really a substitute for the real thing. O royal sage, you could easily have become wise with the help of Chudala. This is his wife. Why did you have to indulge in this useless and meaningless austerity? In the previous chapter, we were being told that these previous efforts had not been wasted. Now we're being told they're completely useless, and I think this is the actual understanding. There was nothing spiritual about them at all. They were not leading to direct realization, not even indirect realization. There's no such thing as indirect realization. It has a beginning and an end, and in the middle there is the appearance of happiness. This is what happens when you sit down in meditation. You might go to your meditation room or meditation hall. You sit down, your nice cushion, bell rings, you sit, you meditate. You might struggle for a bit, and you might get some nice tranquility, maybe an experience of a higher state of consciousness, and then it comes to an end. You get off your cushion, you leave the meditation room and hall, and you're back to your normal everyday life. Maybe feeling a little bit better for yourself having done a meditation. However, your austerity has in a way led to this spiritual awakening. Now remain rooted in wisdom. So in a way it did lead to it. It's a question of how you look at it. As I said in the previous video, it's like buying a lottery ticket. You're not going to win the lottery without buying a lottery ticket. Now you might buy a lottery ticket every week for years, and then you might win. So was that the culmination of fruition of all your previous efforts at winning the lottery? You could look at it that way, but you could also just go and buy a ticket and win straight away without having to do it every week. So there's a bit of an analogy there. It's a question of how you look at it. It is in the infinite consciousness that all these realities and even the unreal notions arise, and into it they dissolve. Even ideas like "this is to be done" and "this is not to be done" are droplets of the infinite consciousness. And these might be ideas about what you need to do to get spiritually enlightened. These are the practices you follow. This is the sort of behaviour you avoid. They're just droplets of the infinite consciousness. Abandon even these and rest in the unconditioned. All these austerities, etc., are indirect methods. Why should one not adopt the direct method of self-knowledge? They're called indirect methods. The assumption being is that you'll get there eventually, and that will happen anyway. But following indirect methods actually takes you away. There's more chance of missing the point completely if you actually believe you're doing something to get there. So an indirect method is not a method at all, it's an obstacle. But sometimes you've got to keep hitting obstacles before you get there, and eventually the light dawns. But it's good if you can just drop all the obstacles. There is only one method to self-knowledge, and it's the direct method. That which has been described as Satva should be renounced by the Satva itself, that is, by total freedom from it, or by non-attachment to it. Yes, we've got this new idea of Satva here, of purity of light, which is something we can hook into, can't we? But we need to drop it, and we drop it from the realization of total freedom. Whatever sorrow arises in the three worlds, O King, arises only from mental craving. If you're established in that state of equanimity, which treats of both movement and non-movement of thought as non-different, you will rest in the eternal. So this is almost like a response to the previous chapter. We are told that the mind, only when the mind is utterly quiet, when it's completely abandoned all desires, etc. But here we want to transcend this distinction and not worry about movement or non-movement of the mind. If you start craving for non-movement of thought, you are caught up in craving. There is only one infinite consciousness, and this is the realization. That Brahman which is pure consciousness is itself known as Sattva. We could call it absolute purity, but without any notion of impurity. The ignorant see it as the world. Movement, as also non-movement in that infinite consciousness, are only notions in the mind of the spectator. The totality of the infinite consciousness is all these, but devoid of such notions. Its reality is beyond words. We go beyond all notions of spirituality, all notions of purity and impurity, all notions of agitation, the agitated mind and the still mind. We look directly to our own experiencing. This is Brahman. Vasishta continued. Having said this, Kumbha vanished from sight, even while the king was about to offer flowers in adoration. Reflecting over the words of Kumbha, Sikhidhvaja entered into deep meditation, completely free from all desires and cravings, and firmly established in the unconditioned state.